If you're looking for the cheapest and most reliable Madden 22 coins on the market, check out my sponsor, MMOEXPR.com. Links are in the description, and use code JEDI at checkout for 5% off. Alrighty, hey there guys, Adrian here, aka JediBro95, coming at you guys with another video. And in this video, guys, you're probably going to see this on Saturday morning. But in this video, guys, I'm going to be predicting what I think the top 20 picks for the mock draft are. So if you guys did see it from the draft promo yesterday, this year how they're doing things is they're adding something new for the draft promo for the mock draft. Basically, when you complete your mock draft voucher tokens, and you can get all these picks here. Now, how this works is for this first round one, right? Let's say you go in and you can pick one of these guys, right? Like this basically is you guessing and predicting who the first overall pick is going to be. Will it be a Q? And it's by position, so will it be QB, tight end, halfback, wide receiver, DB, O-line, edge, non-edge D lineman, and non-edge linebacker. So inside linebacker and inside lineman. So with that being said, guys, there's just a few things I want to get out of the way before we get into it. First, this is going to be based off of the mock drafts, based on this website for on CBS Sports. So you see here we got a few guys like Ryan Wilson, Chris Trapasso. I gotta scroll down a little bit more to get all of them in here, but you got like Chris Trapasso, and you know these guys here. These obviously, you know, as you can see. You know, you got conflicting, you know, Pete Prisco and Kyle Stack. You know, these guys all have their different boards. So this is not only going to be based off what these guys say, but it's also going to be based off of what I think these teams in question should be drafting, be it for their personal fit or whether I think it's just the best player available and what I think they should pick up. Also, guys, before we get too deep into it, guys, there's still a decent amount of you that are watching these videos that are not subscribed. So if you guys could take a quick second to subscribe to the channel, thank you very much. And also leave a comment. Both things help me out in the algorithm. Both things get this video out there to help people potentially decide on their picks and see, you know, where they could change up and see, you know, what they could do differently or what they think, you know, if they agree or disagree. And both things, you know, help grow the channel and help get the content out there for others to see. So with that being said, I do have all 20 vouchers, so we're going to get started right away. So the first overall pick is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars, these guys here have a little bit of back and forth. As you see, they have somebody says offensive. You know, Ryan here is going with an O-lineman. Chris Trapasso says edge rusher. I have to literally scroll all the way. There we go. Chris Trapasso says edge. Pete Prisco says O-line. Aiden Kyle Stackpole says edge rusher. There is one guy in the middle that like I said, I have to scroll down because there is 5 on this panel, which I don't know. You get used to me scrolling, guys. So Josh Edwards. So these guys are all split between D lineman and O lineman. Me personally, I'm going to go off what I think the Jaguars for this should pick. Now, obviously, they're not going to be picking a quarterback because they're trying to invest in Trevor Lawrence. And I think it would be best for them to go after some protection. But they did pick up some protection in free agency as they did grab Brandon Sheriff. And they also, I think they got one other great offensive lineman piece. So for this, I'm actually going to pick a non-edge defensive lineman. This is going to be my pick. For the Jaguars, I think they're going to go with a non-defensive lineman. So this is what I'm going to pick for the very first one. I did not realize I did not have it set up that way. So here we go. As you can see right now, I just put this thing in. So first overall pick is going to be a non-edge D lineman. So this is what I'm going with. Obviously, you know, they're probably going to be drafting based on needs because obviously they don't need a new franchise quarterback because they're already trying to build around Trevor Phillips. So that is pick number 1. And as you can see, now that you've selected, you cannot do any more sets for the first overall pick. It's done. So now we move on to the second overall pick, which belongs to the Lions. So these guys have it up to where they have it like, a couple of these guys have Aiden Hutchinson going second overall. You know, we scroll down a little bit more. You go back up. Again, get used to this, guys. I apologize. So we go back up a little bit. You see Pete and them. They have Aiden. They have Thion Thibodeau. But a lot of the consensus seems to be that it is going to be an edge rusher for the Detroit Lions. So I'm actually going to go and drop my second overall pick as an edge rusher for the Lions. So I'm going to go drop that in here real quick. So as you see, second overall pick for the Lions. Prediction has been locked in. Done. Keep in mind, guys, these will be redeemable on Thursday. So these will all be, redeemable for Thursday. And if you get if whatever amount you get correct, you can exchange those voucher correct predictor tokens into the reward set for prizes, obviously. So moving on to the next pick, which is going to be the third overall pick. Now this is owned by the Houston Texans, and some of these guys are pretty set on Trayvon Walker, or at least these two guys. What about these other ones here? Let me just scroll a little bit more. So we move to the middle of the pack here. Scroll up a bit. As you can see, they're looking like they're going to be going with Thibodeau. They're looking like they're going to be going with Thibodeau for the third overall pick. So it's looking like they're thinking it's going to be top 3. So I'm actually going to pick the third overall pick, and I'm going to pick it as an edge rusher as well. These guys, I don't know what the Texans basically need anything at this point. Like, they're obviously a rebuilding franchise. So I think they could try to land their next edge rusher and hope he pans out to be the next J.J. Watt for them. Maybe. So real quick, as you can see, token has been exchanged, and there we go. Third overall pick is another edge rusher. So we're going to go from there. Moving on to the fourth overall pick. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, guys. I do apologize. There's nothing really I could do about it. But the fourth overall pick, we go back to the boards. You got Kyon Thibodeau here. Kyle Hamilton for the Jets for this gentleman here. And then we move over to the third spot, which is right here. We can see if we scroll up a little bit higher. Third pick is going to be, this guy has it as Ikem. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. O-line. Then we got Trayvon Walker for the, for this guy, for the fourth guy. I can't remember his name, for Pete. And then you got Amon Gardner for the, for cornerback. But I think the Jets could be looking for some edge rush help. They did pick up a cornerback in DJ Reed in free agency. I don't know if that's going to definitely help them, but it definitely puts them on the right path. But they do need a little bit of pass rush for themselves. So for the third consecutive pick, I'm actually going to pick an edge rusher, personally. I think I'm going to go with an edge rusher for the Jets, personally. This one is based off what I think the Jets should do, because the Jets definitely need some pressure on the quarterbacks. Next, we move on to the fifth overall pick, which belongs to the New York Giants. So if we take a look at this board here, pretty much it looks like it's going to be a consensus offensive lineman, which does make sense. The Giants are in desperate need of some offensive lineman help, as the Giants definitely need to help protect Daniel Jones. So I think it could very well be an offensive lineman, and I'm actually going to go with an offensive lineman for the fifth overall pick. So we go down here for fifth overall pick. I'm going to go with the offensive lineman. Definitely, I do think the Giants should be looking to draft their offensive lineman. They're hopefully their anchor on the O-line. So that is who I'm going to go with. Just to make sure, go back one step here, just to make sure I did do the fourth pick. Yes, I picked edge rusher. Okay, perfect. Now we move on to sixth. This is owned by the Panthers. I'm not going to waste too much time spending on who owns what pick. But as you can see, these guys right here. So so the first one is offensive lineman Kenny Pickett for the quarterback for the next guy. Personally, I am of the belief that the Panthers should be looking to get their next franchise quarterback. I don't think they should be looking to build around Sam Darnold anymore. I think they should be looking towards getting their next QB, be it Malik, Pickett, or whoever. And yes, this quarterback class may not be the best, but the Panthers cannot afford to be wasting time with their next franchise guy. So I'm actually going to pick quarterback for the Panthers. I think I said Giants. So the Panthers, this is who I'm thinking is going to be. It's going to be a quarterback for them. I think this is going to be the first quarterback position pick in the draft. So moving on to the seventh pick, also owned by the Giants. It seems like they're unanimously or let me actually just zoom this in just a little bit, just to maybe make it a little bit easier. So they're looking like they're unanimously in okay with an edge. Oh no, there's a cornerback one here. They think the Giants should go after a corner. Just move this over a little bit. Giants, corner, wide receiver. I don't think the Giants should be looking to get a wide receiver. I think they have. Well, they're looking to trade off Kadarius Toney, which is a late breaking story. So I could theoretically see them getting a wide receiver. I don't think they should be, but me personally, I'm gonna base this one off of what I think the Giants need. And to be completely honest, the Giants do need some help in the secondary. So I do think that they are going to be able to get, I think they're going to pick a defensive back. Now, obviously, we all know this is not a perfect science. You know, the draft could just be wild. The first overall pick could come and it could completely ruin the fucking mock draft here. But, you know, obviously we're looking towards the future. We're hoping that, I'm hoping that I at least get 10 or 11 of these right. That's what I'm hoping for. So I think defensive back is going to be the 7th overall pick. 8th we'll go on here. I'm not going to keep scrolling back and forth because it's just going to be a longer video. You know, I'm just going to continue. So it's owned by the Atlanta Falcons. And looking at these boards, you know, Garrett Wilson, Malik Willis, you know, quarterback. These the analysts on this website are torn by wide receiver and quarterback. I personally think they should be going for a quarterback. Marcus Mariota is not that guy. He just isn't. And as much as Marcus could be good in Atlanta, the reality is the Falcons just don't have good enough weapons for him to work with and a terrible offensive line player. So I'm actually going to think that the Falcons should look to draft their next franchise QB in this draft. So I'm going to pick quarterback for the 8th overall selection, which does belong to the Atlanta Falcons. Next, we move on to my Seahawks. Now, these guys are torn between offensive line. There's one person I think that, one person that thinks they should get a D lineman. One person thinks they should get Malik Willis. I'm going to base this off what I think the Hawks should do. I think Seattle should be looking to get an offensive lineman for this draft, especially because there is still rumors going around that he might come to Seattle, that Baker might come to Seattle. And if you can follow me on Twitter, I'll say it right here. You guys know I'm a believer that we could get something out of Baker Mayfield. May not be great, but it's worth a shot, right? Especially since we have Drew Lock starting, and I don't give a crap what people try to say. Oh, give Drew Lock a chance. No, I'm not giving him a chance. He's ass. He's just terrible. So I do think that if the Seahawks are really committed to having Drew be the starter, they're not going to pick up a quarterback, and so they're not going to go get Malik Willis. So I think they're going to go pick up an offensive lineman. However, I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to get a cornerback, but I'm going to pick offensive lineman as I think that is what they're going to go with for the pick. Next, we move on to the New York Jets again. This pick was from the Jamal Adams trade, so I accidentally clicked the play on the highlights or some shit. So these guys are torn between receiver, corner, receiver. I personally think that the Jets should be getting a wide receiver. I think the Jets should look to go get a wide receiver for Zach Wilson, have him and the receiver that they pick develop into a formidable duo that could be probably the next, great QB wide receiver duo. I mean, for fuck's sake, we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase just say, screw it, let's just go nuts. So, why not? I'm going to pick wide receiver for the Jets for the 10th overall selection. Moving on to the New Washington Commanders, and it seems like they are pretty much set. Oh, no, I lied. So they are not set. They have some people saying that they're going to get an edge guy. I really don't think Washington should get an edge rusher. I think they should be looking for some pieces in the secondary, especially when Landon Collins and especially since Landon Collins and who was the other one that they got? Especially since their safeties are not panning out. They're not doing very well. So I think the Washington Commanders should look to get a defensive back. So Yeah, I'm going to keep it at DB. So for the 11th pick, I'm going with defensive back for the Washington Commanders. Next, we move on to the 12th overall selection, which is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. And it seems like these guys, they got a couple people saying corner, but it looks like the consensus is overall it is going to be a defensive back. So that is what I'm going to go and select here for the Vikings. And it does make sense. The Vikings do need some secondary help. Patrick Peterson is near the end of his rope. Anthony Harris has been a bit of a disappointment in Minnesota, or is he in Philly now? I can't remember. I can't remember if he's in Philly or Minnesota. But, the secondary does need help. Harrison Smith is a very good player, but, he can only do so much, right? So I do think that they should go for a defensive back. Texans get the 13th pick. This is from the Cleveland Browns trade with the Deshaun Watson trade. So these guys have it to where it's like, it's all over the place. You got D-line, offensive line, corner, safety, wide receiver. Me, personally, I think the Texans should be trying to get some protection for their young quarterback. But I think the Texans could be going with best available player. And I don't really keep up with college like that. I don't know who the best available player is. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did decide to go with a wide receiver. So I'm going to go with wide receiver for the Texans for the 13th pick. I think this is just something that they should do. Just because it could be the best player available, but this is probably my wild card for this selection. Moving on to the 14th pick, which is owned by the Ravens. These guys have, basically it looks like a piece for the defense. You got your D linemen, you got your cornerbacks. I am still thinking that the Ravens should go after a wide receiver. It is still amazing to me that the Ravens have not found a true wide receiver yet for Lamar Jackson. But they do actually need some pass rush on the outside, on the edges. Calais Campbell is moving, I think he's already been the interior defensive lineman. But even then, they have Odafe Owe, who's actually a solid rookie last year. And then the cornerbacks, they just added Marcus Williams for their safeties. So I don't necessarily know if they should go defensive back. So I'm actually going to pick wide receiver. I think the Ravens should pick a wide receiver for the draft, and that is what I'm going to be going with. So there is that. Next, we move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's looking like these guys are saying wide receiver, D-line, cornerback, and this is why I say I'm also basing my projections off what they should go after. Now, the Eagles had a solid season last year. They weren't fantastic. They made the postseason, but were whacked in the wild card round by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So the playoff experience is good, right? The playoff experience is always good, but it was abundantly clear in that playoff game that Devontae Smith needs help. He absolutely needs help with a secondary wide receiver to take some of the pressure off him. Devontae Smith is a really good guy. He's a good player. I think they need to pick a second wide receiver. So that is what I'm going to be going with for the Philadelphia Eagles is a wide receiver. So here we are. Boom. Done. Next, we move on to the New Orleans Saints with the 16th overall pick. Now, these guys are saying that they should draft an O-lineman. I do not disagree. I think the loss of Trenton Armstead is going to be a big loss for them. And I think they should look to draft his replacement in this draft. So I do think the Saints should get the next O-lineman. So I'm going to pick O-lineman for the Saints for this one. Next, we move on to the Chargers. These guys have offensive line, wide receiver, offensive line, corner. The Chargers are an interesting team because they really could be a Super Bowl contender. And looking at the team that they have, they probably are looking for somebody who can contribute now. But the question I wonder is what position can they bring in that could be built to be competing now? I personally think that they could bring in another defensive back. I think they should probably go for another DB. Asante Samuel is good, but also you got to consider the fact that they're in the AFC West now, where you got Mahomes. Russ now is in the AFC West. Oh, God help me. This is going to be a brutal year seeing that happen. Anyways. And then you also have Derek Carr, who just got Devontae Adams, right? So I think the Chargers should probably look to get a defensive back. Wouldn't shock me if they went for some more protection for their O-line, but their O-line is one of the better units in the league. So I do think the Chargers should get a defensive back. So that is who I'm picking for them. Next, we move on to the Eagles. Now, the Eagles pick with their swap is a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a weird one because with them, like, they did a pick swap for this 18th and 19th pick. But some of these boards still have the Bears being the 18th selection. So I don't know if that's a misprint, but I do think if they are going to get after a wide receiver, I think the Eagles should look to get some defensive lineman help. And I actually think the best one is going to be an interior defensive lineman. So a non-edge D lineman, I think, will be great. Brandon Graham and I can't remember, Fletcher Cox are getting up there in age. They're going to need some assistance and some help on that D line. So I do think the Eagles should go after a D lineman with their second first-round pick. The Saints is the next one, the penultimate pick for this. Obviously, there's still more picks in the draft, but there's only 20 picks for this, which is good because this would be at least a 30 fucking minute video if this was the case. But for the 19th pick, the Saints, they got quarterback, edge, wide receiver. I think the Saints should look to get a wide receiver with the 19th pick. The questions about Michael Thomas are still looming. Is he going to be healthy? Is he even going to play next season? Is he going to be traded? Nobody knows. And Brandon Cooks could come back, but I do think the Saints should go after a wide receiver along with an offensive lineman. So I do think that they should do a wide receiver with the 19th pick. Lastly is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, these guys have quarterback as their pick. Some people have D lineman, I think. Okay, no, I'm okay. Looking at it as like a mock trade, like they're doing like a mock trade. But let's say the Steelers keep their pick, right? Let's say the Steelers keep the 20th overall selection. Who do they go after? My personal opinion, I think it should be an offensive line. Yes, they could go draft a quarterback. However, they just signed Mitch Trubisky, and this, in my opinion, for Mitch, is going to be a prove-it year for him. If he can prove it, then the Steelers have their next long-term solution at quarterback, hopefully. But if he doesn't, then obviously next year they could look to go draft their quarterback. So we'll see what happens at this time next year, if they do this again. But the Steelers' offensive line has been terrible since Alejandro Villanueva left and since Maurice Pouncey retired, which was basically last year. The Steelers' offensive line was terrible, and their defense is already set up to win now. They have one of the best, if not possibly, arguably, the best unit in the league. They got a stacked front four with, Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt, Stephon Tuitt, and then they got some great corners and some safety and some good safeties. Mika Fitzpatrick is in the conversation as the best safety in the league. And their offense is solid, but they need some offensive line protection. So I think the offensive lineman is going to be for the Steelers, and that is going to be the last pick I do for this. So just to recap, I'm going to go into my binder, and I'll show you you guys what I selected. Okay, so here is what I selected for the draft promo. Here's what I selected for the mock draft. Go in here real quick. So there we go. Okay, so here we are. So starting for the first pick, we got non-edge defensive lineman, edge, O-line, quarterback, DB, quarterback, O-line, wide receiver, DB, wide receiver, O-line, DB, non-edge D-line, wide receiver, O-line. So if you agree or disagree with anything I have selected, or if you think that something's going to happen, obviously do not be afraid to let me know in the comments below. I'm always anxious to hear what you guys have to say. And honestly, I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping, bare minimum, I get 10 right. I wouldn't be shocked if I didn't, though, because like I said before, I just don't keep up with college sports in general because I just don't care for it because I don't think it matters. But that's a different conversation. But until the next time, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace.